I find that quite interesting that you say that you talk about the branding, and then because I don't know exactly where you're from in New Zealand, whether it's quite rural or a big city, but what has it been like for you moving to the US?
Well, in a lot of ways, like I love being there because it's to me America is like a music place. You know, it's a music center. For all of its madness, when it comes to music, there is a real kind of purity and a real appreciation for musicians and stuff. In New Zealand, it's you kind of have to be Lorde or something before anyone will show you any respect for doing something creative.
Right.
If you're not making $1 million doing it, people think that you're just a loser. And I think like if you, even if you do make money, I think people just think that it's kind of like winning the lottery. It's not like there's not like a normal appreciation for things like novelists and musicians and stuff. Although the government is like, the government has been really supportive of the arts and stuff. I think in that sense, the culture is like, good to artists and stuff, and there's a community that is good about it. But I just mean in general, like the general public are quite like, it's quite hard to be there. But I mean, in America, if you're a musician, it's like nobody. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you make a ton of money doing it. It's like people are quite enamored by the idea of making music and stuff like that, just as in and of itself, which I think is really good. Of course, they're like more obsessed with money in some ways than New Zealanders even, but it's like, I think just that's what I felt like. People are more like interested in music and musicians and stuff. So yeah, I like that. But I mean, it's also kind of maddening. It like drives me crazy. And I talk about moving quite a lot because of the politics and you know, all the craziness that. A lot of things that I feel like I can't relate to and stuff. Yeah.
So is that then where a song like American Guilt comes from?
I suppose American Guilt is just like I've been there for about 10 years, and I suppose like gradually over time, I kind of understand the culture more, and when I look at it, I just I kind of feel as if I feel more guilty about. The way, you know, like contributing to the text machine and stuff like that. So I think it's just about, it was that phrase American Guilt is just like a feeling that I get from being in America. Like I feel more guilty the longer I'm there. But yeah, you know, it's funny though, because Americans are also like very warm people, and there's a lot of like contradictions in that culture that yeah, it's a bit of a puzzle sometimes. Sure.
Then there's a couple of other tracks I'd like to delve into. One of the things that comes up, and you kind of mentioned that your father struggled with substances, but there are some references to substance abuse on the record.
Yeah.
For instance, Major League Chemicals, and If You're Going to Break Yourself. So where did this idea or this inspiration come from?
It's just always been in my life. Like substance abuse is just like something that is just like an everyday issue in my family and in my life. It's just kind of always been there from my earliest memories. You know, it's like when you say like what are my memories of that time when I was holding that guitar. It's like the place that I was living, the place that photo was taken was I think it was one of my dad's, because my parents separated when I was a kid, and I think it was one of my dad's like flats that he lived in. Yeah, and like I remember my dad kind of like. He would come home and then Mum would kick him out and he'd have to go flatting, and then he would always be like playing with other dudes, other musicians, and they were always getting drunk and stuff like that. So it's just like kind of always been there.
Okay. And in particular, Major League Chemicals, I think sonically, you mentioned the 60s and that kind of Jimi Hendrix thing, and I kind of got that vibe from that song. So where did the music for that come from?
A lot of that was me and my brother Cody jamming on these ideas that I had, and they were kind of like Jimi Hendrix type ideas, I suppose. Like I just had a few riffs and kind of like guitar-based things that I had been working on, and Cody's playing is really influenced by Mitch Mitchell, and my playing is influenced by Jimmy. So we kind of just started getting into our Jimi Hendrix experience like mode, and like we like jamming like that. We like kind of doing that a lot, and so it was just a live kind of recording of a few of those things that we have been working on, and then. Yeah, I suppose that track is also influenced by the Mothers of Invention, Frank Zappa's early band, and those the sound of like his early records. Yeah.
Did you have an overall? Let me ask it differently. Did you have a kind of a sense of what the album would be in terms of the sonic landscape?
I think I had this idea that it was going to feel fragmented, and that there was going to be an aspect of like the way things feel at the moment, like that things are kind of crazy and there are multiple levels and nobody knows what's real and stuff like that. And I felt like I wanted to make a record that had some of that feeling to it. Like at first it was kind of weird because I thought it would be strange because I was going in different directions at the same time. This kind of like folky strain to the record, and then there was like something that was more like multi-love, like more like R&B or disco kind of stuff, and then there was like this kind of hard, this like heavy classic rock kind of stuff happening, and so there were all these like kind of different threads. But I just think that the way that people listen to music now is so fragmented and eclectic that it just is. I don't see any problem with it. I think if it was people would just going to record stores and buying the record, it would seem like really kind of fragmented and postmodern or something. But it's like not. I think when people stream things, they might only hear one song anyway, and I think the way that it's going to work is like all these different songs will all be kind of go their separate ways on the internet, you know, and different fans of different things might like, you know, there's a song called Chronos Feasts on His Children, and it's kind of a folk or Hawaiian music influence kind of thing, and you know, I can imagine somebody who just hates all of my music just liking that one song, right. You know, and I think American Guilt might be the same thing, where might be a rock fan or somebody who likes Black Sabbath or something who doesn't really like UMO at all but just thinks that song's good, you know. In fact, I have close friends that are like, who's like the only song they've liked of mine is an American Guilt. And then like, and then there's like people who kind of would just like a disco track off it and don't understand why I put American Guilt on the record, you know. I just like, I feel really kind of fragmented, and I feel like the world feels really fragmented, so I didn't stop myself from kind of just letting these things kind of be incompatible and just kind of tie them together on the same record.
Finally then, you mentioned Chronos Feasts on His Children. And I tried to figure that song out, but I couldn't because, well, I did read up a little bit about Greek mythology. So what inspired that song?
I wrote that on a plane ride back from Vietnam, and it's kind of about the last week I spent in Vietnam. Really, or even just like maybe the last 3 or 4 days. It's just kind of, I think it's just like it's just a way of trying to capture what Vietnam felt like. And a lot of it is just things that happened. Like, it's not, I think it sounds kind of, like surreal or something, but it's really not. It's just exactly what happened. And yeah, it's, I think the mood of what it was like to be there is captured on there, and also I think the idea of maybe Chronos Feasts and its children, I think it's maybe the idea that sometimes you have an experience that's so specific and so important that, you know, my thought is like, oh, I want to go back to Vietnam, but in a way it's kind of like, yeah, if I go back to Vietnam, it'll be probably good, but it won't be the same ever again. It's like that time is kind of completely gone. You have to just let these memories just kind of fly away. And I suppose like music in some ways is a way of kind of like trying to hold on to some of those things, because you won't remember every aspect of it, but sometimes music can help capture things for posterity a bit more, like feelings rather than like details, you know. It's like if you, it's like sometimes if you have a certain like perfume or something, and if you kind of smell that perfume and you haven't smelt it since you were with somebody that wears it all the time, it might be 3 years later, but you'll remember like feelings and stuff that you did that you couldn't have access to any other way. So I think a lot of the time, I think that what I'm trying to do now is like if I have a feeling that's really strong, I try to capture it in music so that I can keep coming back to it. It's for my own personal use.
In that sense, and it might be too early for this, but is there kind of an overall feeling or memory you have of this album, Sex and Food?
Yeah, there's a lot of feeling. Yeah.
Time capsule, or is it quite
the whole thing?
like
I think all of it. I think all of it is. I think part of what I was trying to do is capture like all the feelings that I was going through last year, because there was a lot of things going on, and so it's all that really. I think it's all I think you if you listen to the record, then you'll be there with us through the process of making that record last year, and you know, it's really nice. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to, you know, bring my brother and my bandmate, and at one point I brought my dad. At one point I brought my dad with us to Vietnam, and it's because I want everybody to come with me and like see what it's like. It's kind of, you know, because it's like an adventure that, you know. I don't want to kind of be alone on the adventure, because I want to be able to experience these things with other people. And I think music is a way of like explaining to people, like, this is what happened to me, this is what my life was like, or this is what I was feeling, or whatever. And it's like, it's just like trying to share the kind of parts that are more magical or something, I don't know. But yeah, I think all of it is, it's like every single minute is like some attempt to kind of explain something very specific. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Ruben, thank you very much for your
time. Thanks.
Thank you.